When you go through that doorway, you got a place to go.
In the remote desert areas of Iraq, U.S. soldiers are training Iraqi recruits to form the new army and police force of the country. But outside the cocoon of a training camp, the newly graduated security forces must tackle one of the most challenging environments in the world. Over the past 4 years, the U.S. has trained more than 300,000 between policemen and soldiers. On the face of it, it sounds that Iraq has enough people to take on its own security. The reality on the ground is very different. Many soldiers and policemen cover their faces, in fear of retaliation by those who see them as collaborators with an infidel pro-American government.
When the Americans actually started any attacks on those areas or any operation in those areas, let me say, who is in the front? You find in the front lines always you find the Iraqis. This is the problem.
Iraqi security forces have always been part of major operations, like in Fallujah in 2004 and 2005, and now in Baghdad as part of the security crackdown. But in most cases, it's the American soldiers who did the job, raising questions about the Iraqi level of readiness.
You cannot grow an army overnight. You cannot create generals and officers and sergeants overnight. That takes time to create the experience base for them.
In this divided country, the security forces are split among sectarian lines. While the Ministry of Defense is run by the Sunnis, it's the Shia who control the Interior Ministry and its police forces. And the police forces are the big problem. They have been heavily infiltrated by Shia militiamen. Wearing police uniforms and using state equipment, Shia militias have been kidnapping, torturing and killing thousands of Sunnis. And during the ongoing security crackdown in Baghdad, police and army have been unwilling to target Shia neighborhoods, focusing their attentions on the Sunnis. Leaving to the Americans the task of tackling the Mahdi army stronghold of Sadr city and protecting the Sunnis. Purging the police forces is a priority, but with the sectarian strife on the rise, it's extremely difficult to convince the Shiite government. Because if the US pulls out, the militias could one day be their only protection.
It's important for the national government of Iraq to take those steps necessary to bring these organized Sunni units that are fighting in Al-Anbar and Diyala against al-Qaeda, to bring them into the national framework of the security forces.
Lately, the government has been reluctant to incorporate Sunni tribes into the security forces. The US is currently allied with some tribes in its fight against al-Qaeda. Incorporated Sunnis would ease some of the sectarian tensions. But the main question remains, when will the security forces be really able to deal with the challenges of Iraq? Only when the answer is known will the US be able to seriously talk about pulling out. Huda Abdul Hamid, Al Jazeera.